Hey everybody, welcome to Bura. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about an e-learning company that just laid off most of its staff. Alright, welcome back. Before this video, make sure you like and subscribe. The more subscribers you get, the more content we can make. The number one reason why you subscribe to this amazing YouTube channel is to get into the money-making trends before it goes mainstream. Alright, so as you know, I run a company called Mammoth Interactive. It's an e-learning company. We've sold over 1 million courses since 2011, and I'm going to be talking about one e-learning company that has, well, basically made a few mistakes along the way and has just laid off most of their staff. All the while, they've received over $12 million of funding in 2013. So which company is this? Well, it's Team Treehouse. Now, if you've ever taken a Team Treehouse tutorial or subscribed to them, I want to know what your thoughts were down below. So I uploaded my first Udemy course in November 2011, and since then, our company has sold over 1 million courses worldwide. We're very proud of that number. Well, around that time, Team Treehouse started to get some traction and they landed a huge investment. Now, Team Treehouse has kind of faded into obscurity over the last few years, but at the time, Team Treehouse was a very good content producer. Their tutorials were very well polished and they had, well, a huge team making sure that their service was really good. So what really went wrong? Well, there was a lot of things that went wrong. First and foremost, they tried a bunch of things that didn't really work out. First, they tried a 32-hour work week, which didn't really work out. Then they tried a no boss structure, and that also didn't work out. So as a business owner, I made a few mistakes myself. When I scaled up my business in 2016, I decided to do a 3-year plan, which I tried a bunch of things. I failed at a few things, and I also succeeded at a few others. So as a CEO or a company leader, you have to try new things. If you don't try new things, then guess what? The market could change and you can go out of business. You always have to be innovating. Now, of course, hindsight's 2020, but the no boss structure doesn't really work out. You do need a commander to move the ship forward. Now, I'm gonna make a whole other video about this in the future, so please be sure to like and subscribe. But one of the things you definitely need is someone who knows everything in the business and how to manage those people to move the ship forward. The best example of this is Elon Musk and Tesla. Elon Musk knows practically how to do everything in Tesla, and he knows the science behind what he's doing. You cannot BS Elon Musk, and that is one of the reasons why Tesla is such a good company. Having said that, you do need some kind of command structure, but I get where they were going with this. There are sometimes subordinates that are frankly smarter than the managers, but you have to address these smart people in a very good and effective way. And having everyone have no boss is probably not the right way to go. So perhaps the better way of going about it is having a little bit more of a looser command structure, because a lot of these big business, the command structure is so rigid, and if you have a subordinate that's way better than the manager, there's no real opportunity, and that subordinate just basically leaves for a different company. So if I were to scale up my company, I would have a command structure in place, but I would constantly reevaluate that command structure, and it would be a lot more loose than others. What I would do is delegate some more important tasks to some other people, but mostly the command structure would be a little bit looser than a lot of these big companies. Now, the other thing that Team Treehouse did that didn't really work out was the 32-hour work week. Now, of course, I personally like the 35-hour work week, and I think that when you go into the 37 to 40-hour work week, you have diminishing returns. And the reason I say this is that you can cut off Friday afternoon, because Friday afternoon is not productive at all. Now, of course, I, the business owner, have to work a little bit harder. I usually wake up between 4:30 and 6, and I enter the office anywhere between 5 and 6:30. But rarely, if ever, do I come into the office past 7 o'clock in the morning. And then I work till 4, and then after that, I spend time with my family. Now, personally, I'm in a very lucky position where I can do that, and I count my lucky stars every single day. Now, personally, I don't think I could do my job in less than 40 hours a week. And the CEO had a ton of press and articles saying that they could basically do that. Now, I don't really think that's perhaps the best thing to do. You will need some people who work a lot of hours to make sure the whole place runs. Now, usually that's the CEO in the first startup areas, but after that, it could be the manager, and the CEO does other things. Perhaps the CEO does more press conferences or other things, but at the end of the day, there does need to A, be a command structure, and B, people do need to put in the hours. Now, the other way that you can do the hours part of it is that you can basically set up some goals, and those goals are attainable. And if you hit those goals, well, then guess what? You can take the rest of the week off. Now, some people, this works out really well because if you hit the goals by Wednesday, well, then you can take Thursday and Friday off. Now, some people really work under this. Now, it's all about the kind of employee that you hire. Some people can do the 9-to-5 grind and that's what they're best at, and other people can basically work whenever they want and just get everything done on their own time. Now, the 9-to-5 grind doesn't really accommodate people who like to sleep in and stay up late, for example, the night owl. And personally, I think the freelancing thing that's been happening over the last maybe 5 or 6 years has really made those people shine. And you know, as my company grows, I'm going to definitely accommodate that. If you want to stay up until 12 o'clock midnight working, well, then you can do that. As long as you get things done and they're done well, then I'm going to guess you can do that. Having said that though, of course it depends on the kind of company that you're making and the role itself. A software developer needs to be available for meetings, and a content developer might need a little bit more flexibility. Again, there are so many variables to just put in on the 32-hour work week. Now, 35 hours I think is probably the best amount of work for most employees, but that's not every single employee. So let's get back to Team Treehouse. Now, one of the things that a lot of e-learning companies do is they overhire. Now, there are lots of companies in the space that have way too many employees for what they deliver, and I don't really know what these employees do all day. I literally don't, because again, I own an e-learning company, and if I got $12 million, well, guess what? I would change the world. But that's a story for a different time. Nevertheless, when you start up and start a business, every employee has to really do a good job, and you can't overhire, because if you overhire, you're taking resources away from advertising or something else that requires more work. Now, since they got $12 million, they probably hired a PR firm to get them into a lot of major publications. If you ever wonder how you get into the major news outlets, well, oftentimes you hire a PR firm, and it will cost maybe thousands to tens of thousands of dollars to get your articles into these big places. And it's not cheap, but if you have VC funding, well, then guess what? You can go ahead and get yourself into these publications. Because I saw a lot of articles and a lot of videos about the CEO talking about, well, this company for a long period of time. In fact, the news coverage on Team Treehouse has been quite big. It's really kind of surprising how it managed to lay off so many people. Now, I don't know how many people are left at Team Treehouse, but I can tell you that perhaps they did overhire a bit too much, which is a fatal mistake to make when you run a business. So the other thing is that it only raised $12 million. And when I say only raised $12 million, what that means is that they haven't raised a series B, C, D, E, or F. If you look at a lot of other e-learning companies, they have raised, $100 million, $200 million, $300 million worth of startup funding for the series A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. Now, for some reason, they were never able to raise that second round. So the way that this VC funding works with a lot of these companies is that you have a company that gets a series A, and then the VC people talk to their other friends and they say, hey, I have this really good company. Why don't you invest in another bunch of money in my company? And they say, okay, that's good. And then they raise maybe 50 million, and then they raise another 20 million, and then another 30 million, and then another 50 million. And then all of a sudden, this small company that got seed funding of maybe 1 to 10 million now has over $300 million worth of funding. Now, where does all that money go? Well, the money usually goes into Facebook and Google ads, but I haven't seen a Team Treehouse ad in a long time. Probably their advertising budget ran out a few years ago. Now, I remember back in 2013 when every single YouTube preview was the Team Treehouse ad. In fact, I was so bombarded with their ads on YouTube, Facebook, and Google that it was pretty hard to ignore them. Now, hopefully they got some kind of ROI on that, because you do need to get an ROI on that advertising, which is very, very difficult, by the way. A lot of noob entrepreneurs think that they can just put money into advertising and get sales. It is not that easy. In fact, it is very difficult to do that. Now, because in 2013 I saw this ad constantly, I made a mock video about this And you can see it here, it's called Coding for Cats. It was an April Fool's joke, and I managed to find the exact same stock music as the Team Treehouse ad. Now, I absolutely thought this was hilarious. Maybe it was just me, but you can check out the video. It's called Coding for Cats, and it's right here. It's awesome. Just go check it out. Now, you might be thinking that I'm gloating a bit, saying that this company is not doing well and it's in my space, that is the e-learning space. Well, I really don't like the fact that they did this. When a studio closes in your space, that is really bad news. So since the pandemic, a lot of e-learning companies have seen a lot of growth, my company included. Now, a lot of these companies are exiting right now, most notably a Cloud Guru, which has sold for 1.6 billion US dollars or 2.2 billion Australian dollars. Now, this is a huge thing because a Cloud Guru was one of the companies I really respected. Now, you'd think that during the pandemic, most e-learning companies would go up, but if you didn't have a good strategy, well, it might not have been the case. Nevertheless, it's not good when a studio closes down or lays off its staff, and one of the things that is really annoying about the e-learning industry is that there's not a lot of investment on the content side. If I want to become a game developer or a movie developer or something like that, I can go get investment for the particular game or movie. But if I want to make, let's say, an online course or a bunch of online courses, I can get zero funding for that. And that's something I think that needs to change. There needs to be more studios like Team Treehouse, not less. There needs to be more choice and more competition. But most of the e-learning dollars from VCs goes into the platforms and not the content. And as a result, I think the whole e-learning industry isn't as healthy as, let's say, the video game industry or the movie industry. Now, of course, this can change tomorrow, and I've been saying this for basically the last 5 years, that a lot of content development isn't as scalable as it could be. And the reason for that is that a lot of these platforms and marketplaces prohibit you from being too scalable. Again, I think this problem will be solved in the future, but currently it's a big problem in the industry. So what really went wrong with Team Treehouse? Well, I think they tried too many out-of-the-box ideas and they probably hired too many people. And this can be the kiss of death for a business. Now, I run a business, specifically an e-learning business, and I know how hard it can be to make money. Now, here's the thing. I don't have 42 employees. I have a small group of employees that work really hard and, well, they do a really good job. On the topic of investment, lots of companies get investment where they probably shouldn't have. And Team Treehouse probably could have picked some better staff to manage that $12 million a little bit better. I don't know how much of that $12 million is left, but hopefully it's enough to kickstart their business going forward. Because again, if Team Treehouse doesn't do well or goes out of business, well, that's not really good for the e-learning industry altogether. Now, if Team Treehouse does go out of business, it means that $12 million should have gone to a different company, and that different company could have done a better job. So in conclusion, if you want to run a business, you have to run a lean ship. Even if you get VC funding, that's not the ending point, that's the starting point for a beautiful business. All right, so that concludes this video. I want to know your thoughts down below. Have you taken a Treehouse tutorial? Let me know what you think about that. Remember that this channel doesn't do a Patreon, instead we sell our digital e-learning products down below. The more we're going to get from the content that you buy below, the more content we can make. Again, we've sold over 1 million courses since 2011. If you really like this channel, you can subscribe to Mammoth Interactive's huge library of content. We release 20 to 60 hours of fresh new content per month, every single month. It really does help us out when you subscribe. We have a monthly and yearly option. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much. Not only do you make this YouTube channel possible, you make my e-learning company possible. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.